Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Challengers, the latest film from director Luca Guadagnino, starring of course Zendaya, Mike Faust, and Josh O'Connor. And this is a movie that I was honestly really excited for more than most people that I knew. And that's largely because of Luca Guadagnino as a director who I think a lot of people, if you're a film fan, you have probably seen a lot of his movies, namely, Suspiria. His Suspiria remake is extremely controversial, but I tend to absolutely love that film. He also had his, Best Picture nominee, Call Me By Your Name, a few years ago, which is a really good movie. And then Bones and All, which came out a couple years ago, which I, again, absolutely loved that film, that dark and twisted love story that just took me on a complete journey. And now you have Challengers, which I think is probably his best film yet. And I will, of course, be talking about spoilers for Challengers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, go check it out. I would highly recommend this film, especially if you're a fan of Zendaya, if you're a fan of sports movies, and really want to watch something that is extremely entertaining. There's a lot of drama in this movie. The love story here is so complicated and entertaining, and these sports sequences are absolutely thrilling, and it's the closest I've ever gotten to an ending like Whiplash since Whiplash. So what is this film about? Well, essentially it follows Zendaya's character TASHI, who is a rising star in the world of tennis, and she runs into Art and Patrick, who are another tennis duo. They are a tennis team that have known each other since childhood. They are best of friends, and they both unfortunately fall in love with TASHI, and it becomes this love triangle of sorts between these three characters as it kind of drives a rift between these two friends, all kind of competing for the same love, and all at the same time, a lot of intense tennis matches that mean a lot more than just winning and losing in regards to the match itself. It means a lot more to what it is off court. And there's a lot of great, smaller little character moments in this film that you kind of get to know what these relationships are going to be like. You get to really see what the dynamic is going to be right at the beginning of the movie when they first meet and they all go to a hotel room. And then, of course, you have Zendaya kind of teasing both of these guys, kind of leading them on in a sort of way until they both get on the bed with her. And it's a very funny scene. I think Luca Guadagnino, especially in these types of movies where it has some sort of love story in them, he does a great job at building these character dynamics, making them all feel very specific and unique, and the stories that they tell and the way that they get to know each other feels very real. It feels very natural in how they meet, and it tends to be either extremely funny or extremely twisted when it comes to Bones and All, and in this case, it is very entertaining to watch, but also there's a lot of tension built between all three of these characters because you don't know which way Zendaya is going to go. Mike Faust is definitely the more innocent of the two friends. There's a great story that they tell where his character essentially learned how to jerk off because of the other character, and of course it's an extremely funny scene, the way that the dialogue goes off and the way that they all kind of laugh and make fun of each other for these very specific reasons, but that also kind of informs who he is as a character and how Josh O'Connor kind of has a leg up on him in a lot of sort of ways. He is definitely the bad boy in terms of this duo. He's definitely the one who's going to poke jabs at Mike Faust's character at any point that he gets, and he's definitely the more, I don't want to say maniacal because he's not necessarily an evil character. You do feel some sympathy for him when you get down further into the movie, but at this point you can definitely tell the dynamic between the two of them, where one is a lot more straightforward and a lot more trying to get the girl, and the other one is trying to be a lot nicer and is trying to also get the girl, but he's more respectful in that sense. And it was also set up that these two characters had a tennis match the very next day, and at first they're like, okay, Patrick is going to let Art win because, Art needs that sort of win. He needs that sort of, I guess, recognition. He needs that boost in his confidence that he so desperately needs at this point in his life, and Patrick is willing to do that for his friend. But when Zendaya introduces the idea that whoever wins this tennis match is going to get the girl, that just adds a lot of pressure to these tennis matches, and it creates the precedent where every single time these two characters meet on the court, it doesn't just mean win or lose. It means who gets the girl and who doesn't get the girl, or who is better at one given moment, or who's going to get the approval of Zendaya's character at any point in their lives, and that just makes it a lot more intense and thrilling. There's also the non-linear storytelling in this movie that I think is extremely important. It's part of the DNA of this film because it of course starts off with the most current point in time where Zendaya's character is actually married to Art. So you know that he eventually gets to marry the girl of his dreams and that Josh O'Connor's character doesn't get to. And you get to see that he's kind of down on his luck. He has no money. He's desperate to get into any hotel room. He's sleeping in his car outside of the matches. He is down on his luck in any sort of way. And Art has a sort of fame to him because he is with Zendaya's character. And he also gets some allusions that Zendaya's character was in some injury that has taken her out of the sport. And so now she's kind of living vicariously through Art's character. And then that, of course, bounces back between how they all met back in the past, 13 years prior, and there's also a third timeline, which is like a few years after they first met and when Zendaya is dating Josh O'Connor's character, because he is the one who wins that first initial tennis match, and he is the one who gets the girl at first. And so the timelines bounce back and forth between all these different moments, and the main, I guess, hook of this movie, or I guess the main, points of conflict in this movie is this tennis match that they're facing in modern day. And like I said, these tennis matches mean so much more than just what it is at face value, because this is also at a point in Art's life, here in his future, where he's kind of thinking about retiring. He's down on his luck. He doesn't think he's good enough to win the US Open, and he has a lot of confidence issues that he's had throughout his entire career. And when Tashi signs him up to be in this one tournament that she knows that's, Patrick's character is going to be playing in, she's kind of setting the puzzle pieces, kind of setting the chess pieces for them to eventually meet up at the court to try to get this all settled and sorted out of, because Zendaya's character is definitely a little bit manipulative. I think all three of these characters are manipulative in one way or another to each other in terms of their relationships, in terms of how they treat each other in here is extremely toxic, but it makes the movie so much more, I guess, alluring to watch. It is extremely interesting to see how these characters play each other throughout the entire thing. And so now you have this tennis match where where Art's character is facing so much pressure in terms of how his career is going to go. Because if he loses in this tournament that he's basically just being a guest in, that he shouldn't have any issues with winning, what does that mean for his character? How's that going to affect his confidence? And placing Patrick in that same tournament means so much more to the relationships. Did Tashi choose the wrong tennis player to date, to marry, to have this life with? Did she choose wrong? Is he good enough to actually win the US Open, or should he have chosen Patrick, who had a better chance to actually winning? Because again, Zendaya's character is living vicariously through these characters because of her injury, and it just makes this tennis match so much more intense. And every single round of this tennis match cuts back to the past, and you get to see what sort of history they have with each other, and how one character won the girl over at one point in time, and the other character won the girl over in another point in time after the injury. And it is so good. Marco Costa is the editor of this film, and he worked with Luca Guadagnino mainly in Bones and All, and he was an assistant editor with Suspiria, I believe. But the work that he does here is truly astounding. Like I said, it's a Nolan type of non-linear storytelling where you bounce between all these different timelines, and it really begs the audience to pay attention to where you are at any given moment, and the way it cuts at the most dramatic points to other points in their timeline that means so much more to elevate that final tennis match is extremely impressive. Honestly, if this movie goes on to win awards at the next Oscar season, I'd be shocked if this guy does not win for editing. And then you have the score of this movie from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who, if you know them as composers, you know that they are great at composing film scores in general, and their music is just so intoxicating a lot of the time. And this movie especially, the score in here is, at first I was like, this is weird. The tone that it is setting for this movie is so offbeat and unique that I kind of love it. And then it just kept on going, and the score is so in your face. And again, it's intoxicating to watch these characters argue with this score just pumping in the background, and the beats just kind of getting faster and faster and faster, and building that intensity to a point where there is so much tension that has been built that it feels like it's just going to explode, and it's going to be so insanely crazy that, again, I think the best word to describe this movie is intoxicating. And then there is, of course, the performances. I think that Mike Faist and Josh O'Connor are phenomenal in this film. But if anybody has a chance that I hope gets, recognition when it comes to Oscar season next year, it is Zendaya. She is incredible in this film. She's having a great year, with Dune Part 2 being my favorite movie of the year, and now Challengers being my second favorite movie of the year. She blew me away in this film, specifically with her performance, because again, it is a very sexy performance. It is a very alluring performance. It's a very manipulative and just intoxicating performance. I'm going to use that word again because she is so fascinating in this movie, and you can see that behind her eyes, there's always gears turning. There's always something going on in her mind that makes her so interesting as a character, and that is 100% in her performance. Maybe it's on the page, maybe it is in the script itself, but it is 100% what Zendaya is putting out on the screen, what is going on behind her eyes, that makes this character so engaging. But let's talk about the ending of this film, because again, I do think this ending is probably, it gave me the feeling that I had watching Whiplash for the first time, which, if you haven't seen Whiplash, go watch Whiplash. It's easily my favorite J.K. Simmons performance ever. I love him in that film, and it's just one of the most intense movies that I've ever seen. And the ending with the drumming sequence at the end of Whiplash, with how those characters, that intensity that is building between these people, and you can tell that it means so much without a single word of dialogue. Then you get the ending of this movie that is equally as intense, equally as thrilling, kind of funny with how how much tension there is with these characters and all the unspoken things that are happening. One of my favorite jokes in this movie was how they set up how each character serves differently, how their playing styles are different and unique for each player, and how Josh O'Connor's character, he throws up the ball really high before he does his serve, and you have Mike Faith's character who holds the ball at the center of his racket before he goes ahead and serves. And there's one point at the beginning of the movie where you find out that Josh O'Connor's character got the girl, he won that tennis match, and you have Art asking, oh, did you sleep with her? Oh, you don't have to tell me, just when you do your serve, do it like me. Don't throw it up in the air like you normally do, and that will let me know that, yes, you did sleep with her, and that's going to kind of push this divide between the characters a little bit more, but you also have this friendship between them that is unbreakable at this point in their friendship, where, Josh O'Connor's character, he plays ball, and he puts the ball at the center of the tennis racket saying, yes, he did in fact sleep with her, and that reaction that he gets out of Art is very funny, and you can tell that there's a respect between them, but also it's forming that divide between them that might never be able to be repaired. But then at the ending of the movie, when you find out that Zendaya's character, with how she manipulated these pieces to be in this tournament at this point in time, and how she went off and did cheat on Art at the end of this movie and did sleep with Patrick's character, that was such a heartbreaking thing, because at any point in this movie, you're rooting for Patrick, you're rooting for Art. At this point in the movie, I was rooting for Art. I was hoping Zendaya wasn't going to do that, but she does do that. And at the end of the tennis match, you find out that Zendaya told Patrick to let him win because Art needs that confidence. And what does Patrick do at the end of this match? He goes ahead and he puts the tennis ball in the center of his racket, essentially being that unspoken thing between them, letting him know that Zendaya's character did cheat on him. And his reaction was so funny. I cannot tell you how much I laughed at the ending of this film because of that reaction. So good. And this is honestly the only point in this movie where Tashi didn't have a leg up on these two characters, where these two characters finally were able to recognize the things that she had done, this rift that she had formed between these two characters, and kind of have this look of respect with each other while also being completely pissed off at each other, and finally have, I guess, a reconciliation with them, because yes, they are best friends and they let this character get between them, but it's also all a game, and they love the game, and they're not mad about everything that has happened. And even Zendaya's character, she loves playing this game with her two boys, and there's a sort of respect between all these characters. There's no good person or bad person. It's just the drama that ties them all together that makes it so interesting. And again, some little lines of dialogue throughout the entire movie just kind of have more meaning when it comes to the ending of this movie, which makes me want to rewatch this film so incredibly badly. But there's a point where Zendaya says that there is, it's a relationship when you're on the tennis court, when you're going back and forth, and there's about 15 seconds in a match where she wasn't winning or losing. They were just kind of going back and forth, and there's this synchronized, I guess, this tempo between them. It was kind of like a dance on the court that was just so in sync with each other that is what true love is. And these two characters at this point, after that had happened, they are now in sync perfectly. They're hitting the ball back and forth, back and forth. You have no idea who's going to win this match, and then the movie ends completely without answering that question. But what it does answer is the fact that these three characters all have a mutual respect for each other, and also a mutual hatred for each other, but more importantly, they have a love for each other that is completely unbreakable despite all the drama that has happened throughout the entire film. And I think a lot of people also have different takeaways with this ending, because again, it is open-ended. It doesn't have a specific answer for you with how these characters feel about each other at this point in their lives. But that doesn't matter, because again, there was that synchronization of all three of them that was just beautiful. But that's going to be it for my review for Challengers. And I can honestly rave about this movie all day, but I'm going to cut off. I'm going to mention one more thing. The cinematography. I think the way that the tennis matches are shot is extremely thrilling. The way that the camera whips back and forth between these characters that can kind of, push the intensity of the match, and how that same camera moves and the same technique is used when they're just arguing with each other in a bedroom, how it's whipping back and forth between the two. The way that he has restraint in, the camera always being locked down on a tripod, with it either tilting or panning between the different characters at any given moment. And when there is actual movement with the camera, when it does fly through space, it has so much more impact. And the way the perspective of the ball happens at the end, there's so much with the cinematography of this movie. Again, if this movie is nominated for, Best Actress for Zendaya, Best Editing for that one, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, and Best Cinematography, I would be so incredibly happy. And of course, give it Best Picture. Just give it all the awards. I know Dune 2 is probably going to win in the long run, but how great would it be to have Timothée Chalamet win for Best Actor and Zendaya win for Best Actress in two different movies, even though they were both in the same one earlier this year? I cannot rave about this movie enough. I'm now going to pass off to you. What did you guys think of Challengers? Did you love it as much as I did, or do you have a different opinion on the film? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one, along with leaving a like if you did enjoy, just so I can just know your immediate response to whether or not you enjoyed this video. Definitely leave a like as well as commenting and subscribing, and I hope to see you all in my next video.